All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on July 10th, 2025 at 6:01 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Commissioner Zeitz,
Present.
Commissioner Terrell,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Steffen,
Present.
Commissioner Cobian,
Here.
Vice Chair Baker,
Here.
Chairperson Dijonay.
Here. All right, I invite Commissioner Terrell to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, before we get started tonight, I'd like to invite the Community Development Director to make a comment.
Hello, good evening, Chair, Planning Commissioners, Angelica Frausto-Lupo, Community Development Director. And I do want to mention and acknowledge that on Monday, July 7th, the revised draft Program Environmental Impact Report, or the PEIR, for the proposed Movell 2040 project, which consists of the 2024 General Plan Update, associated zoning text amendments to Title IX, and zoning atlas amendments, and the 2024 Climate Action Plan was circulated and released for public review, and it was drafted per the judge's orders. So I just wanted to make that mention up front. And it is available through August 21, 2025 at 5:30 p.m. It's available at City Hall and the 3 branch libraries, as well as online. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, we're now going to move on to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion and a second?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Triple vote. There we go.
Messed it up.
All right, the motion does carry. All right, before we hear public comments this evening, I ask and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful towards others. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to free speech. And any person wishing to speak either under the agendized or non-agendized item should fill out a request to speak form available at the door and submit the form to the secretary prior to the end of the public comment period. During the public comment period, each member of the public will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The public must direct their comments to the chairperson of the commission. Now let's move on to public comments, not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we have one speaker, Miss Lindsay Robinson.
Good evening. I did receive the revised EIR document, and I'm here to ask, we're supposed to be doing a general plan update because that was also thrown out. And so the public have been waiting and asking when we're going to be able to give our input. And I've made multiple inquiries to staff and never gotten a reply. The same with council. The public needs to have input because the one done during COVID excluded much of the population. General plan updates take several years, like our 2006 plan, which is supposed to be what's in place right now. And Riverside's currently doing theirs over 3 years and reaching out to the community and the different communities within the city. You're supposed to protect community character. Unfortunately, with the panel that Mr. Gutierrez assigned, there was no representation from the Northeast, and yet he had 2 members of his campaign donors, his most substantial campaign donors on there, who got to rezone the Northeast to commercial in R10, which does not fit in with the community. So the public was supposed to be allowed to give input. The court ruled it has to be redone, so we want to know when we get to do that input on the general plan update and do it ethically and honestly, not like what was done during COVID. It's very important that we get our input and our community area is protected. That is not being done. And you guys had a couple years to do the revised, and we're only given 45 days. So during vacations, when people are away for the summer, and then they're going to get home and have maybe 1 or 2 days to do it, that's not right either. So we need that time. We need to be included, not do it behind closed doors. It's very important to our future. Those of us that live here, many who work on that do not live here and are not going to suffer the consequences. But the consultant at the scoping meeting for the EIR said the general plan update was going to be redone and we were all going to be allowed to participate. Obviously that didn't happen and you didn't follow the timeline that was given to us during the scoping meeting. So let's do this right. Let's stop the lawsuits. Let's listen to the people that live in these areas. Now you've already done the mall and the town center, which were already in progress before the general plan update. So the only thing that was really on the agenda was to destroy the northeast end of town, and we need to protect that area and the community character. So let's do it right. Let's let the public give their input on the general plan update and be ethical and transparent. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers?
We have no more cards.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. All items under the consent calendars are considered to be routine and non-controversial and may be enacted by a motion unless a member of the commission requests that an item be removed for separate action. Items withdrawn from the report or discussion will be heard before action on the consent calendar. Questions or comments from the public on the consent calendar matter must pertain to the subject under consideration. At this time, would any commissioner like to pull an item from the consent calendar for a separate vote or discussion? I'll take that as a no. Do we have any public comments for items on the consent calendar?
We have no cards, sir.
Do we have a motion and a second for the consent approval of the consent calendar?
A motion to approve this consent calendar?
That,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, the motion does carry. The next item on the agenda is non-public hearing items. Item number 1, we have a commission roles and responsibilities, and I believe we have a presentation.
So somebody needs to turn this thing on?
Yeah, and set the timer.
Thank you. I'll go along with that. I second that motion. Okay, there you go. So I was asked to do this presentation to all of our commissions and boards. Thank you, sir. And it's not a training session that deals with issues like findings or the law. It has to do with our internal procedures that all of our commissions and boards have to follow pursuant to this new, the ordinance that was adopted and the newly revised rules and procedures. So for the Planning Commission, I'd like to start out with the fact that it's the government code that provides that in a general law city, which we are, may establish a planning commission. So it's may. In lieu of a planning commission, a city council in a general law city can actually serve in the role of a planning commission. But the government code provides that in the event we do establish a planning commission, the planning commission reports directly to the city council. And this, it's the city council that establishes the membership of the planning commission, but there has to be at least 5 members. In our case, we have 7 voting, 7 voting members and 2 alternates. How do I change this thing? I need a training session here. Am I pointing at the wrong thing?
Turn it all up. Just 3 minutes. Stop the clock for you.
Do it from here. Okay. So, the slides aren't that important. But the government code specifically provides that you as planning commissioners are to act in the public interest. So that's a quote out of the government code. And so what constitutes a public interest? Well, the public interest includes due process issues. And due process applies not only to the applicant, but also to the constituents or anybody who stands up here and comments about a particular project. And so that's very important to keep in mind, because when we talk about due process, we're talking about issues of fairness, about impartiality, and following procedures. And we'll get into, at some time, we're going to have training on findings, and that's a whole different issue, but that's all related to due process. But your primary role, and the primary role of all of our commissions and boards, is to serve in an advisory capacity. Is to serve in an advisory capacity to the city council and staff on all matters pertaining to planning, development, and zoning. And so sometimes you wear this legislative hat where you're dealing with policy issues, and the policy issues are broad issues such as zoning and development standards. And when you're wearing that hat, you're not necessarily required to follow or to make findings, to make decisions on those issues. And again, we're going to have training on findings, and we'll talk more specifically about when you wear your legislative hat versus when you wear that quasi-judicial hat. Oh, there you go. Now I'm going too fast. So the City Council adopted a legislative policy. It's Legislative Policy 1-10. And the reason why they adopted changes to the legislative policy. And the reason why they did that is because we saw that there were some inconsistencies between our legislative policy that applied to all of our boards and commissions and some of the policies that we had in the municipal code. So when we saw those inconsistencies, there was a recommendation made to the council that we need to reconcile this, make sure that there's an internal consistency between the municipal code provisions and our legislative policy. And speaking of this legislative policy, we have our deputy city clerk here. Is Sonia here? Oh, there's Sonia. So she's going to be handing out a copy of the legislative policy along with an acknowledgement form. We don't expect you to read it. We don't expect you to memorize it. There's not going to be a quiz, but we just want everyone to acknowledge that they received the form. And it's important to know that, when you ask a question about policy or procedures, that's where we get our answers, or from this legislative policy. And so we want to show you that we just don't make these things up. So in this legislative policy, we address various issues. We address the appointment process. As you guys all know, we've had some issues with the appointment process here. But the appointment process was changed this time around to create commissions and boards that had equal representation across all the districts. And so that's why we set up this process to allow to allow each district council member to come up with a recommendation to fill certain spots on each of our commissions and boards. And under the general laws of the state, in a general law city with a directly elected mayor like we have here, it's the directly elected mayor who actually makes those final nominations. But in order to stay consistent with that law, we created a process where the appointments or all the nominations that are made for the appointments are made from a list of recommendations that are submitted by each district council member. So eventually we're going to get to a point where all of our boards or commissions are going to have equal representation across all the districts. So again, the purpose, and so that was the purpose of changing the appointment process. We also included we also made a change to the rules of procedures that our boards and commissions follow. Generally, in most cities and most other agencies, and in our case, even our city council follows Robert's Rules of Procedure. Well, the Robert's Rules of Procedures were adopted back in the 1800s, and they've become very archaic and very complicated. And they were not created for legislative bodies such as the body that you sit on here. And so I think back in 2006, a judge by the name of Rosenberg came up with a set of procedures, what we call Rosenberg's Rules of Procedures. And they're very simple. You know, when Robert's rules are over 100 pages, when Rosenberg's rules, I think we're down to 6 pages. And it deals specifically with the kind of motions that we generally make. So they were tailored specifically for legislative bodies, particularly at the local level. And so now we have all of our boards or commissions, when you make motions, when you rescind motions, when you withdraw motions, when you amend motions, those are all set forth, those procedures are all set forth in Rosenberg's Rules of Procedures. The only provision that we actually recommend that the city council pull out or delete from the Rosenberg's rules, which some other cities have done, are the rules that allow filibustering. So there's a filibustering provision in Rosenberg's rules that have been removed by a number of cities. So we don't allow any filibustering at our boards and commissions. We also reference the fact that we have to comply with the Brown Act. Now, the Brown Act is not a procedural document. It's in the sense that it doesn't necessarily govern procedures as to how you make decisions. The Brown Act is all about making sure that whatever decisions you make, which includes a deliberative process, are all done out in the open. It's all about public transparency. What's important, though, in the Brown Act, what's important for, I think, everyone to understand, not only staff, but also our decision-making bodies, is that the Brown Act includes a number of timelines, like, when we have to publish an agenda. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But when we have regular meetings like this meeting here, we have to publish an agenda at least 72 hours in advance, versus if we call a meeting, we have to publish the agenda 24 hours in advance. And the reason why that's important for our legislative members to know is because if you have an item you want to put on the agenda, you have to kind of give some thought to how much lead time does the staff need in order to get that item prepared. So that should tell you that if you want something put on a regular agenda and we go through the proper process of getting it on there, staff's going to need at least 72 hours to come up with the name of the agenda item to put on the agenda. But in addition to the 72 hours, we're going to need at least a couple weeks advance notice in order to study the item and put together a staff report and any requisite ordinances or resolutions or agreements that come along with that particular item. So that's a really critical thing to remember about the Brown Act. And the Brown Act also has rules in it that speak to the issue of when you have to have deliberations, discussions, or meetings before the public. And so we'll talk a little bit about that too later on. One of the other issues that we dealt with when we presented this legislative policy to the council was the issue of a quorum. Because over the years, what was happening is that we were really struggling on getting a quorum to show up at some of our commissions and boards. We didn't have that issue here as much because we had some alternates. But with a number of our other boards and commissions, people are just busy. You guys are the only ones that get paid, but you're still working for free, basically, for $75 a month. But, all of you are busy. And we were having a situation where we were just not getting enough people for a quorum. And so we had issues that were being delayed because of that. And so over the years, what some councils, former city councils did is that they reduced the number that constituted a quorum for certain boards and commissions. And that created some complications for these boards and commissions when they wanted to establish ad hoc subcommittees. Because if we had a quorum that was set at 3, then that meant that we could not have 2 people go off and meet as an ad hoc subcommittee. And so it was basically impossible to create these subcommittees to go out and study items to bring back to their full boards and commissions. So the recommendation that was made to the council, which the council adopted, was to reset the quorum back to a majority. So that's the default under the Brown Act. In order to establish a quorum, it's a majority of the commission or the board. So now everybody's back to a quorum being a majority. Term extensions. This issue came up not too long ago, actually just last month, where we had a number of terms that have expired. Prior to this time, prior to the newly adopted changes to this legislative policy, when somebody's term expired, they were automatically off. Well, that didn't make a lot of sense in a practical way because we needed to conduct business, particularly with the Planning Commission. So now the rule is that if your term expires, you continue to serve until somebody is basically sworn in to take your spot. So right now the mayor is still working on the slate. Until that slate comes forward and it's approved, any one of you who is sitting in a seat right now that has expired, technically you continue to serve until you are replaced. And at the time that you're replaced is at the time that the person is actually sworn in. Absences. We now monitor absences. We also had an issue with excessive absences in the past with various boards and commissions. And so now we have a process that's set up to provide excused absences. So anytime that you know that you're going to be absent from a particular meeting and you want to be excused from that meeting, it's very important that you let the staff liaison know that you're not going to be able to attend the meeting. And if you want that meeting to be excused so it doesn't count against you, then you need to provide a reason as to why you're not going to be able to attend that meeting. And now the only excuses where you can get an excused absence is if you have basically child care issues, health care issues, or if you're out on a conference on behalf of the city. So there's very limited reasons for excused absences now. We also are now submitting an attendance sheet to the city council on a monthly basis. So all the staff liaisons from all the boards and commissions have to report to the city clerk or provide attendance sheets. And every month that attendance sheet is going to go to the city council so that each district council member knows whether or not their particular representative is showing up at meetings. And basically, if you miss a certain number of meetings, or I think it's 25% of your meetings per year, you are automatically removed from your seat on the commission. Now, the Brown Act deals with issues of what constitutes a regular meeting and what constitutes a special meeting and what constitutes serial meetings, which are illegal meetings. Again, with regular meetings are set by ordinance or resolution. The regular meetings for this planning commission has been set by resolution by the city council. And at a regular meeting, that's when we conduct all our normal regular business. With special meetings are pretty much reserved for issues that come up all of a sudden, or an issue that needs to be decided upon before the next regular meeting. And again, with these special meetings, we have to have at least 24 hours notice provided to all of the commissioners. And in addition to that, we also, for special meetings, have to notify the media anytime we have a special meeting. The thing I like to point out, though, between the difference of a regular meeting and a special meeting is that in special meetings, during the public comment period, we are only required to allow the public to comment on any item that's on the agenda, not anything that can potentially appear on your agenda or anything that's within your subject matter jurisdiction. So with special meetings, it's the only issues that can be commented on are items that are on that particular agenda. Now, serial meetings are the kind of meetings that are deemed to be illegal under the Brown Act. A serial meeting is a meeting that takes place outside the context of a noticed public meeting, meaning that we have, whenever we have a majority of you talking, deliberating, or hearing about something that's within your subject matter jurisdiction, and we don't have an agenda posted, and we're not meeting in public, that would constitute an illegal serial meeting. Serial meetings can also take place if we have two commissioners talking to staff and asking staff to convey a message to a third and fourth commissioner. In that case, that would constitute an illegal serial meeting as well. The importance of avoiding these serial meetings all has to do with due process, because if we have a developer, an applicant, or even a member of the public who has a particular interest in a project and it's discovered that we are having these deliberations and discussions about that particular project outside the context of a public meeting, that would be considered to be a violation of their due process. And the critical thing to remember about due process complaints is that if they end up going into litigation, anytime there's an allegation that there's a denial of due process, individual council members, individual commissioners can actually be sued in their individual capacities for violating due process. And in those particular kind of cases, and under those circumstances, there's no obligation on behalf of the city to indemnify that particular commissioner or council member if they were engaged in an illegal serial meeting. So it's really important to remember that whenever you're talking to another colleague on the commission about a particular project, that you ask, have you talked to anyone else about this? So although there's this, serial meetings are illegal, this does not preclude you guys from getting together, as long as there's not a majority of you discussing an issue, to share your thoughts about a particular project. We discourage that, but I just want you to know that I'm not here telling you that 2 of you or 3 of you can't get together to powwow about the merits of a particular project. But it's critical to remember, though, that when you come to your full meeting, that it's appropriate for you to disclose, and you're encouraged to disclose any conversations you've had outside the context of that particular meeting or public hearing. Now, the types of actions that you're allowed to take as a commission here are very limited. You either take action by resolution, and those resolutions are generally the kind of resolutions that include a recommendation to the city council, or you take action by what we call minute order. And basically what a minute order is a written memorialization of an action that was taken. And these minute orders generally reflect who made the motion, who seconded, and how the commission voted on the matter, and what the item they voted on was about. And so basically there's only 2 types of actions you take. You take action by resolution, or you take action by minute order. Let's talk about ad hoc subcommittees and standing committees. So an ad hoc subcommittee is consists of less than a majority, less than a quorum of the commission that is authorized to go out on the side and study an item. And study the item for a very limited period of time for the purpose of gathering information and bringing that information back to the full commission in the context of a notice public meeting. So there may be instances where, it can happen in the context of the general plan, or it could happen in the context of a big complex project where the chair decides that, it might be a good idea to have, 2 or 3 of you go out and study this issue, particularly if 1 or 2 of you have a certain expertise in an area of planning. And so it's entirely legal to allow the chair to appoint an ad hoc subcommittee to go out and study an item and bring back that information to the full commission for its consideration. Now, again, when we had these quorums that were set at 3, it was pretty much impossible. It was impossible in a lot of cases to establish these ad hoc subcommittees. And so ad hoc subcommittees can be beneficial in a lot of instances when you're faced with a real complicated project. And so that's something to keep in mind, that if any of you feel that it might be a good idea to approach a project by having a few of you go out and look at an item and specifically about a particular issue, then that's okay to do. A standing committee, though, is a committee that consists of, it can be less than a majority, or it can be, a majority of the whole, or it can be the commission as a whole that goes out and studies an issue. But the issue with the standing committee is anytime we have a standing committee that consists of at least a majority of you, or that committee is assigned to go out and study a general issue, like let's say, residential zoning, then those meetings with those committee members have to take place out in the open, meaning that we have to have a published agenda, and we have to provide notice of that meeting, and we have to allow the public to come in and comment about any item that's discussed by that particular standing committee. So that's the difference between a standing committee and an ad hoc subcommittee. Ad hoc subcommittee is less than a majority. They study a specific item for a limited period of time, whereas a standing committee is a committee of, it's a group of commissioners that constitute either a majority, or they're directed to study a general item and or study an item for an unlimited period of time. So anytime we hear a commission or a board talking about setting up a subcommittee, we always remind them, now, if you set it up this way, then you can go off and meet anywhere you want, and it doesn't matter where you meet, but you have to come back and report your findings to the full commission in the context of an open session. The council, we don't have council liaison, do we? Not for planning. Good. Your staff liaisons, their role is, it's basically administrative. So they're the ones who put together the agendas. They're the ones who set up meetings for your subcommittees or your committee meetings. They're the ones who provide you with the information you need in order to make decisions. And so just keep in mind that their role is primarily administrative. I tell you, you guys all know all this stuff. With a lot of the other boards and commissions, we have a lot of new people there. So this is all fairly new for them. Oh, we talked about term extensions. Again, we already went through this. Going backwards. Yeah, I think I'm probably, oh no. Okay, grounds for removal. If you move out, since you're appointed now based on district, if you move out of your district, you automatically forfeit your seat. Before it was, you had to move out of the city. Now if you move out of your district, you forfeit your seat. You lose your voter registration, you forfeit your seat. If you become an employee for the city, you forfeit your seat. If you're if your brother, sister, mother, father get elected to city council, you automatically forfeit your seat. You're required to take 2 hours of training, ethics training, every 2 years. What's interesting about this is the state legislature adopted this for local government officials, but not for themselves. So you're required to take that ethics training every 2 years. It's important that you do that because if you don't, you automatically forfeit your seat. If you disclose confidential information, you automatically forfeit your seat. The only type of confidential information you would receive in the context of a planning commission is if we had to go into closed session. We generally don't go into closed session with the planning commission, with the exception of, sometimes we may get some threats of a lawsuit before an item's brought before you. In those very rare instances, usually they threaten the lawsuits after it goes through planning commission. But in the event they threaten to sue us on an item that's going to be on your public hearing calendar, we may call a closed session just to give you a heads up on what the issues are that may come up in the context of litigation. If you're arrested for a felony, or if there's felony charges filed against you, or you're convicted of a felony, you automatically forfeit your seat. One of the other issues, and this is the last issue we're going to talk about, and this is particularly important to this particular commission, because I know a lot of you are very passionate about planning issues. I know that from talking to most of you or hearing you speak or seeing you at city council meetings. So the general rule is that when you're appointed to a decision-making body, that doesn't automatically result in you giving up your First Amendment rights. So we don't ask you to give up your First Amendment rights. The only time government can do that is if we have a legitimate governmental purpose to restrict a portion of your First Amendment rights because of the public interest, meaning we're concerned about due process issues. And so one of the rules that we have in this legislative policy is that, and this particularly applies to a planning commission, because the planning commission deals with a lot of due process issues. I got to tell you, most of the commissions and boards, they don't deal with due process issues. This particular commission deals with due process issues head on. And so one of the concerns has always been when we have a decision that's made by the planning commission and a planning commissioner comes forward to either the city council or to any of our other commissions or boards, or even to some of our regional commissions and boards, and makes comments that are not consistent with the decision made by the city council or the decision made by the planning commission. That creates a perception, particularly to those who felt aggrieved by the decision made by the city council, whether they were for a project or against a project, that something went on that just wasn't right. And those issues pop up in the context of litigation a lot. When we're being sued by a developer or being sued by the Sierra Club, and they come forward with transcripts that show that somebody spoke at a council meeting who was on the planning commission and raised these issues which made that decision suspect from a due process perspective. And so that's one of the reasons why it was recommended to include this provision in the rules of procedure, that if you decide to sit on the planning commission and you have to comply with all these due process rules, such as making findings, that we want you to be committed to the decision that was made by a majority of the planning commission, regardless of whether or not you're on the losing end of it. And so that's the one concession that these rules ask you to forego, is that your right to exercise your First Amendment rights with respect to decisions that were deliberated and that were based on findings to support a decision of your colleagues. And so that's, in most cases, that appears to be prior restraint under First Amendment rights. In this particular instance, it's a valid restraint only because of the context in which you make your decisions, which are all, again, based on the merits of a project, the facts presented by the project, and all the rules and regulations, including the zoning rules and all the particular findings you have to make. So that's why there's a prohibition against appearing before the city council or other legislative bodies, not only here at the city, but some of the regional legislative bodies that have overlapping duties with our planning and zoning. So that's why we have that in here. This does not preclude you, though, from, personal comments that are made outside the context of our city council meetings or these other legislative body meetings. Sure, no, that's it. I was told to keep it simple. This is the end.
I'm sorry.
So
This sounds a lot better. My voice sounds a lot better when it's going further.
concludes the presentation.
Okay. Yes.
Question.
So, in pertaining to the First Amendment rights, basically what you're conveying is that the commissioners should not be biased about any agenda item. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Or they shouldn't be publicly speaking at any city council meetings or in front of the city council about how they feel about an item, right, or a project. And so you're basically saying how you feel, and then you're going and voting on it like 2-3 weeks later or whenever the item comes up. So it just makes it seem like you already had your decision made beforehand, correct?
That has to do with due process.
Due process,
Correct,
okay.
yes. All your decisions have to be based on the merits of the project, based on the facts presented to you, and based on the rules and regulations that apply, which include our general plan policies and our zoning regulations. You guys are doing a great job.
So basically separate feelings from fact.
Yes, I guess that's a.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you may have, we're going to talk about this in more detail when we do the training on findings. Again, you wear two different hats. You wear this legislative hat that deals with policy issues, like general zoning issues, general plan policies. They're regulations that apply citywide, not to a particular project, not to a particular property. So when you make those kind of decisions, that's when you can bring in your personal feelings or your personal biases. Like for instance, like with a liquor store. When we're dealing with the constant idea of liquor stores in the context of our general plan policies or our zoning regulations, that's the time to talk about, we may have too many of these kind of uses, or we may have too high of a concentration in this area of those kind of uses. But once that policy decision is made, then you have to strip away your personal feelings and set them aside and only apply the rules and regulations that a majority of your colleagues decided on. So you just have to separate those. So when a project is brought to you, that's when you slip on we call it a quasi-judicial hat. And that's when you're acting like a judge. That's when you have to apply the facts to the particular case, the facts to the particular project, based on the rules and regulations that apply. So you have the opportunity, and it's very rare for most commissions to wear those two different hats. But that's why the role that you play here in the decision-making process is so critical, because we have to have trust and faith that you have the capacity to separate those feelings.
Okay. So I just want to get this straight. So I'm sorry, y'all. I just need to get this straight. So staff brings a project to us, right? It checks all the boxes, state, federal, whatever the project needs to meet, it meets. And at that point, like you said, like a judge, no matter what our personal feelings are, if it checks all the boxes, staff has done the homework, they've answered all of our questions, and they have assured us that this agenda item should move forward, then at that point, we should be moving forward as well. Correct?
Correct.
And if it's some item that, we have a personal feeling about it, that is not a reason to stop that agenda item.
Yes, and that's an
Okay.
appropriate, that's not an appropriate rationale to reject a project. You bring those personal biases in when you're wearing your legislative hat, when we're dealing with the general plan policies and or general zoning regulations.
Two things. One on hers about checking all the boxes. There is still and I may have the terminology.
Now we're talking about
right.
findings. We're gonna have.
I know, but
training
just
session
to
on it.
clarify something real quick, and then mine
Okay.
take me 1 minute. There's still this state of welfare, health, and conditions that we can vote a project down. Even though it checks all the boxes, if we don't think it is right for the public or may cause harm to the public, we can vote it down for that.
Yes.
Second
so-
of all, okay.
Yeah. So one of the, what you see in your staff reports is you'll see, the grounds for basically approving a project has to be consistent with the general plans, be consistent with the zoning, it can be consistent with the development standards. Well, if we have evidence that we have a lot of, calls for service to law enforcement for a particular site, and we generally believe, and we have evidence to show that this kind of business may make that situation worse, then yes, as long as you tie those facts to that finding that, oh, it's not compatible with public health and safety, then that's a way to deny a project.
And then the one last question is,
But we have to have the facts to back it up.
once this board or commission has made its fact, we should not come to, say, another meeting of boards or legislature and comment for it or against it in either way. So we
Correct.
should not come in and say, yeah, we really love this project, or we really hate this project. We should actually leave ourselves completely out of it. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we should not promote a project that's coming
Right.
from
We don't
us.
want to create the perception, because remember, not everybody's on the same side out here. Somebody's always going to feel aggrieved by a decision one way or the other. And so we're always concerned about everybody's due process rights.
So we shouldn't promote or disagree once this decision's been made.
Correct.
Okay.
I take that to mean as well prior to the decision.
Oh, correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Prior to
So-
the decision, you want to be able to represent to the public and to your colleagues and to staff and to the applicant that you're not biased, that you did not go out there beforehand and express your personal opinions about that particular type of use or that particular applicant.
Now,
Just think about you going to court and you find out, oh, the judge has been talking about the fact that he doesn't like me, or the judge doesn't like, my kids. I would put it in that context. Or the judge had these ex parte meetings with somebody who was against against me. That's probably the easiest way to put it. Just put yourself in those shoes of, if you were standing before a judge, what would you expect a judge to, how would you expect a judge to treat your case? And that same rule applies in the context of these quasi-judicial decisions you make on land use issues. Keep in mind, land use involves property rights, which is protected by the United States Constitution and our state constitution. And that's why all this due process kicks in, because we're dealing with property rights.
Now, I did hear you say that it was any official meeting, such as a connecting governing body, maybe Riverside, maybe Paris,
RCTC.
maybe. Right,
WR
or
cog.
to say there's a city council meeting 2 weeks prior, but you have knowledge about the project, and you go to the city council meeting and blah, 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 blah. Then you come and vote, and then afterwards you go blah, 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 blah. That's should not happen at those meetings. I'm prefacing that to say that I think you did say that in a private setting that you can voice those opinions.
Well, yeah, private setting, talking to your spouse, maybe.
Not like social media.
No, no.
That's okay. Just want to make that clear. So no social media talking about I can't stand this. Well, better yet, guys that wear psychedelic purple ties, and then a guy comes in with a psychedelic purple tie, and I've already told him that I don't, and then I vote no. I've already expressed my biases towards that. Got it.
Yeah, you don't want to stand before a criminal judge and he says, I don't like the color of your tie.
You did mention something about we're acting in the interest of the public, and including the public individuals that come in and make a comment. Now, seeing that Moreno Valley consists of over 200,000 people, and of course we really don't have a lot of, I don't see anywhere near 1%, less than 1% of the public tends to participate in the meetings. I understand that we do take.
The importance of their comments should not be discounted.
Should not be. That's what I'm getting to. Right. Regardless if it's one person, two people, or 1,000 people. That's correct.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Now, how much weight you want to give to their testimony, that's up to you.
Okay. I wrote down something else too. Any other questions? Nothing?
I tried keeping it short, Sean. We know you guys are busy.
Okay. There was a
Okay,
couple in here.
well, thank you.
Okay. I thought I had another one there. All right. All right. Where are we at here? At this time, we will open public testimony. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on a public item. Non-public hearing item. Do we have any public comments?
We have no speakers.
All right, we'll move on to item number 2. That is Planning Commission 2024-2025 fiscal year annual report for all districts. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. This item will be presented by Senior Planner Miguel Del Rio.
Good evening, Chair Dejanay and members of the Planning Commission. In your package tonight, you will see a draft fiscal year report for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. Per Title II of the Municipal Code, it is required that the Planning Commission provide a report to the City Council that highlights accomplishments, progress, and direction of the Planning Commission for the fiscal year. In the report before you, we have highlighted a few of the achievements that the Planning Commission has accomplished in the 2024-2025 fiscal year. This year, the Planning Commission approved resolution numbers 2024-32 and 2024-33, recommending that the City Council approve the Aquabella Specific Plan Amendment Project. The Aquabella project will create a master plan community with 15,000 multifamily/workforce housing units, a 49,000 square foot mixed-use commercial and retail center with 300-room hotel, approximately 80 acres of open space with a central lake and adjacent lake promenade, and several acres of neighborhood park throughout the community. The City Council approved the project on December 3rd, 2024, and the Aquabella Specific Plan Amendment Project is highlighted in this report. Additionally, on November 21st of 2024, the Planning Commission approved the installation of a double-faced digital display freeway-oriented sign. The sign will be located on the southwest portion of the StoreQuest RV and boat storage site, directly north of Spruce Avenue, near the intersection of Redlands Boulevard and State Route 60. This project includes a development agreement that was subsequently approved by City Council on January 7th of 2025. This development agreement includes a public benefit to the city that includes a one-time donation of $500,000 for the Moreno Valley Foundation, a 20% profit share with the city for a term of 30 years, and access to use the sign for public service announcements. Another highlighted item on the report is that several members of the Planning Commission attended the 2025 Planning Commissioners Academy in Santa Rosa, California from March 5th, 2025 to March 7th of 2025. The Planning Commissioners attended sessions that focused on topics related to Planning Commission fundamentals, California Environmental Quality Act basics, housing law basics, housing element implementation, density bonus law, and other relevant subjects. The Planning Commissioners Academy training is also highlighted in this report. Another highlighted item is on March 27th of 2025, the Planning Commission approved resolution number 2025-03, recommending that the City Council introduce and adopt an ordinance requiring the formation of a security plan and on-site security requirements for all commercial centers exceeding 2 acres and all newly constructed multifamily housing projects exceeding 50 units. This initiative was approved by City Council on May 6th of 2025. Lastly, on May 8th of 2025, the Planning Commission approved resolution number 2025-06 and 2025-07, recommending that the City Council approve the Town Center at Moreno Valley specific plan. The project provides the framework for an urban mixed-use specific plan that will provide up to 800 housing units, approximately a 105,000 square foot mixed-use commercial and retail center with a 106-room hotel, approximately 20,000 square foot of retail dining space, a 30,000 square foot civic center, and 4.9 acres of public park uses. This project will provide a variety of housing types, including market rate, rental housing, and affordable housing. The Town Center at Moreno Valley specific plan was subsequently approved by City Council on June 17th of 2025. At this time, we are looking for the Planning Commission's direction on the draft report and whether there is any items whether there's any items that the Planning Commission would like to include in this report, or if the Commission would like to approve the report as is and move forward to providing the report to the City Council. With that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff? No, nothing. I noticed that on the Planning Commission Academy, it had no mention of how beautiful the city was. To add that. Okay. If there are no commissioner questions, then we'll now open the public testimony. Each member of the public wishing to speak has a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the non-public hearing items. Do we have any public comments?
We have no speakers.
Okay. At this time, if there are no more speakers for the public testimony, we'll close the public testimony at 6:58 p.m. and move into deliberations. Or do we have a motion and a second to approve as is or add recommendations? Motion and second or add?
I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation of the report.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, we have a vote. All right, the motion does carry. All right, we'll move on. Or do we have a staff wrap-up?
Thank you. Simply to say that the annual report will be presented to the City Council at the August 19th City Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a conditional use permit, PEN 240013 for District 3. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Associate Planner Grace Espino Salcedo is presenting this item.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. Grace Espino Salcedo, Associate Planner. The project before you this evening is a request to consider a conditional use permit for the development of a 950 square foot Dutch Bros Coffee building. The proposed project is located at 24050 Alessandro Boulevard on the north side of Alessandro Boulevard, east of Paris Boulevard. The site is located in the Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District, which allows for eating and drinking establishments with a drive-through located within a within 300 feet of a residential zone or use, subject to the granting of a conditional use permit. Surrounding land uses include established commercial uses to the north, south, east, and west, and to the south of the proposed project is a vacant, residentially zoned parcel. Conditional use permit is required to ensure the drive-through fast food restaurant does not result in an adverse impact on the surrounding neighborhood. The project site is located within a commercial shopping center that has 5 driveways providing shared vehicular access to the project site from both Paris and Alessandro Boulevard. The proposed project will have a vehicle drive-through with a single service window. The drive-through will consist of 2 lanes merging at the service window with the capacity to accommodate a queue of up to 15 vehicles and an escape lane. All customer orders will be taken in person, at the window, or by a runner using a handheld device. No drive-through speaker boxes are proposed at this time. The proposed ordering process has been designed to minimize noise impacts and decrease the amount of vehicles idling at the menu board. Pedestrian walkways are provided throughout the project site to ensure adequate pedestrian circulation. This includes a clearly marked ADA-compliant path that leads customers to the walk-up window on the northern side of the building and a pedestrian walkway along the proposed project storefront, extending to the existing sidewalk along Alessandro Boulevard. To optimize the layout and circulation of the proposed site, the project anticipates removing approximately 25 shared parking spaces from within the commercial shopping center and adding 1 accessible parking space on the project site. The proposed parking layout features one-way aisles around the site, facilitating orderly movement throughout the plaza. The removal of shared parking spaces will not affect the parking required for the existing tenants of the shopping center. The proposed project requires a total of 10 vehicle parking spaces. The remaining parking will continue to serve the shopping center's needs and meet the city's parking requirements for eating and drinking establishments. Landscape improvements include new landscape planters with required shade trees and shrubs within the shared parking lot. The project site landscape includes street trees, shade trees, shrubs, and drought-tolerant landscaping within the 2 on-site bioretention facilities, all of which will complement the existing landscape treatments within the shopping center. Site lighting will be provided at the project site for the safety and security of all customers, pedestrians, and employees. Outdoor lighting and illumination at the site will include parking lot security lighting, pedestrian scale lighting within the patio space, and along the pedestrian pathway and exterior building lighting installed on the building facade. The drive-through area will also be provided with security lighting, and all lights will include shield to direct light toward the project site and prevent glare from affecting adjacent land uses and right-of-ways. The proposed project's architecture utilizes a variety of high-quality building materials with simple, bold colors characteristic of the Dutch Roast Coffee brand. Vertical and horizontal facade breaks, building mass, and modulation have been incorporated into the building's design to provide visual interest. The proposed building features canopy awnings at its entrances and service doors, including a large 300 square foot canopy that covers the customer walk-up service window, providing weather protection. Enhanced design elements include a tower, wall articulation, and materials that are compatible with the surrounding development. A trash and recycling enclosure with a roof cover painted to match the proposed building's architecture and design is also included with this project. The proposed project as designed meets and exceeds the required design, landscape, and lighting standards and objectives of the municipal code and satisfies the city's parking requirements. The proposed project complies with Section 9.02.060 conditional use permits, and all applicable development standards of the zoning code. With the recommended conditions of approval, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt resolution number 2025-10, determining that conditional use permit PEN 24-0013 is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and CEQA guidelines as a Class 32 exemption infill development, in accordance with CEQA guidelines section 15332, and approving conditional use permit PEN 24-0013, subject to the attached conditions of approval included as Exhibit A of Resolution number 2025-10, and as shown in the approved plans. Before I conclude staff's report, I did want to mention that you should have received there at the dais a copy of a comment from a member of the public, and that's the only one that we received to date, no phone calls. So this does conclude staff's report, and I am available for any questions. Excuse me. And also present with us tonight, we do have the Director of Development and Construction from Dutch Bros Coffee, and that's John Caglia. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
I didn't see it in here. I know, very good company, pulls a lot of people in. Are there any precision, thank you, provisions for overflow in the drive-through? Like we have a problem on Hemlock where they're actually, and with the in and out also there, they're actually blocking traffic. Is there something in this proposal that will tell us how this is going to be laid out, how it's going to be handled when this happens? I've gone by many other of these, and I think it's great. You got a good business, you're pulling a lot of people, but we also have to have people not blocking fire lanes, blocking traffic. So is there some kind of plan of how the traffic will be temporarily laid out or whatever, so this doesn't happen?
Thank you, Commissioner Zeitz. One of the items that was presented to staff by the developers team is their program that they have for their stores in regards to queuing management. And I'm sure that John is able to elaborate more on that, but they do have measures in place for providing additional staffing, signage, including staff that's out there directing traffic as to not block any access or parking spaces, et cetera.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? No? Okay. All right, well, at this time, we will open the public hearing at 7:09 p.m. Would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening, commissioners and staff. It's a pleasure to be here. This will be our second store to open in your city here in less than a year. Part of that reason is to help eliminate traffic on Hemlock. You know, obviously, as a new brand to Southern California, there's a lot of excitement behind our brand. And every store I've opened in this city, obviously, is very busy when we first open it. But what we do see is as we open our second and third store, we do see more of a normalized drive-through pattern you see at another QSR restaurant per se. I'm currently looking at the security camera footage for that Hemlock store, and currently there's no one in line. So there is a peak demand. Obviously, we're a coffee business, so obviously early in the morning, lunch, and after school and work is our peak times. But the majority of the time, our queuing is pretty much empty. But that's the reason why we have decided to build not only two stores, they just brought me a third location this week. So you will have 3 of our stores in the city within the next year and a half. So based on a percentage of 200,000 people, most of our stores will average, 65,000 people in the residents to spread that, diversity throughout the city to make sure we don't have long lines going into the streets and stuff like that. So, but with that being said, we're excited to be here to have our second location. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant?
No, I would just like to say that what you're saying makes perfect sense to me because a lot of these chains, some of them don't have but one in the city. So you've got a lot of traffic that backs up. So hopefully some other ones are listening out there because that made perfect sense to me of what you're saying. If when there's more of one, they don't just concentrate on that one. So I just wanted to say that that was kind of resonated with me.
Yeah, and you know, I will say, you know, when I started with this company 3 years ago, I got another city would come up a lot, and we only had one probably within 100 miles, and so of course it drew everyone here. But if you know our brand, I've opened one recently in San Jacinto, one in Hemet. I currently have 2 more going on in Corona Norco area. So as we develop the market, the stores get less and less busy per store, and that's the idea. We want our customers to be happy. We don't want them staying in lines. So thank you.
And I have a quick comment. I've also been by the one on Hemlock. I've been to that I think USA Tires, is it America's Tires, a couple times, and I've never noticed the traffic bleed out, but I can see how that location could, create that situation. But this location, I just don't see there being a problem with traffic here, especially with the double lanes. And then I'm just looking at the satellite view of the parking, because I know that area. I know it well. And there's been an ugly, empty pad there for, 15, 20 years, it seems like. So I'm glad to see that something's going in there. And I don't think, traffic-wise, I think it's a perfect location, actually. And the way it's offset, and it's got way too much parking to begin with, that whole shopping center. So I think it's going to look great. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. When is your what is the timetable of breaking ground or the
What time is it?
Yeah, I'm just curious because
Usually, well, it really depends on the city. Obviously, after planning commission, we have to go back and they have to have usually a 30-day appeal period. But we usually, I think we're at risk currently right now with CDs right now, I believe. So, as soon as I get a permit, I'm breaking ground. And usually my build times are usually between 90 days and 120 days pending power.
okay, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm very happy it's going to be in there because it's a good product. Personally, don't do those, but I know a lot of people that do. Yeah, my just concern, because there is a Montessori school in there also, I do believe, and I just want to make sure that your layout when this, and I know it's not going to be forever, but you have some kind of plan set up so that you won't interfere with the school if it backs up.
Yeah, we do.
things up.
For every one of our stores, due to the popularity of our brand, we have what we call a traffic mitigation plan. It shows worst case scenario, normal stacking, what we do if we have queuing. Just to let you know too, if you remember, if you guys stopped by our first store we opened, we did have private security helping direct traffic. In the worst cases, we'll have off-duty police officers because we all know how sometimes people don't respond even if you tell them you can't do that, right? So, but since we're aware of our brand and our traffic, that's why all our locations also have 2 drive-throughs. I mean, In-N-Out doesn't even have 2 drive-throughs. If you look at both our stores, actually all my stores in Southern California, we actually have 2 drive-through lanes all the way through, and we usually have anywhere between 20 and 30 cars able to queue in our drive-through. So. And we have no food, which makes it also that much faster too. So
Okay, and then just one other thing,
Sure.
you guys are going to have actually somebody out in the drive-through line taking orders.
yeah, we have no speakers, so every order is placed at your car with an employee.
I didn't see it, and I could be wrong, but example, today, having a young lady standing out in 100 and some odd degree weather, is there some kind of,
Oh, robots are coming. I'm just kidding.
which I hate to
No.
see myself,
No,
but
no.
yeah.
We do provide them with shade structures. We also provide them with what we call a cool vest. It's a vest that goes on. It keeps them cool. Also, we only rotate them out every 10, 15 minutes. We don't want them out there in the direct sun. Obviously, that's why we also have the patio cover out there that's by the drive-through. They stay under the shade. The idea is we don't want them in the sun all the time. So, exactly. And then in extreme cases, obviously, they're inside, and we'll take your order at the window.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? I'm sorry, for the applicant. No questions, like samples for the staff or a carafe at the back of the,
A sticker.
Right.
Like a sticker, yes.
Right.
All the stickers. You can have all the stickers.
Those carafes go a long way at the back there. Thank you, I
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. All right. All right, we'll now move on to public comments. Will the clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, we do. We have one speaker, Seth Cox.
Good evening, council, staff. Thank you, Commissioner Zeitz, for stealing my thunder on that. I'm Seth Cox, District 3 concerned citizen. I am not representing as a sitting member of a commission, okay, which I am, but I'm not representing them. My question and comments are concerned about traffic. If you know the area, as some of you claim you do, every ingress and egress area road going into that parking lot is unprotected by any kind of lights, okay? And 3 out of the 4 or 4 out of the 5, guess how you count them, are right turn only lanes. So you're directing traffic away from anything right into traffic going in. The one that is not right-hand lane, you have to go across 4 lanes of traffic and turn left. If you guys remember, our commission ladies remember, Alessandro is a truck route. Okay, so you're gonna have trucks coming through early in the morning too. Maybe they wanna stop and get coffee. Where they're going to stop at, probably pull over to the side of the road and walk across to get coffee. I don't partake of the coffee at the commercial establishment, so I'm biased to it anyway. But I still don't think there's been enough discussions about traffic control. Again, I was going to tell the story on Hemlock. I've been over there many times, even most recently, and cars are backed up in the street for hundreds of feet. I've seen probably 25 cars backed up on Hemlock, and then you tie that with our favorite In and Out across the street that backs up to the freeway sometimes. Anyway, you can't get through there. Again, if it had an emergency vehicle could not get through there. I just don't want it to happen down on Paris and Alessandro. Both major thoroughfares through the city. I still think you're going to have some traffic problems. So maybe it will be addressed somewhere else down the road and other commissions once we find out that we do have an issue. So think about it. Sounds like it might be wasted my 3 minutes up here, but I decided to come up here and speak anyway. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
We have no more speakers.
All right, there are no more speakers, and we'll close the public testimony at 7:19 p.m. and move into deliberations.
Well, I've lived in this area, particularly by this shopping center for 37 years. And I seen it when it was Lucky's, if some of you know, Albertsons, when it was the Long's drugstore. I used to know those people. I used to mail letters to the president all the time over there. I used to know the people that work in there. So I seen that shopping center change, and I've seen the particular place that used to be a check cashing place used to be a rent-to-own place too. And when it got burnt down, it became a haven for the unhoused that camped over there. But this project, it check all the boxes. It mitigates the noise by the design of the project itself. The traffic, the parking, and as the developer representative said, it mitigates for traffic in this plan. And it's going to bring revenue for public safety and infrastructure. And that's the thing about this area, that it's an unused area. It has a pad already. And it's going to generate revenue, but it also is going to bring a good brand to this community that we need more. If you have Starbucks on the other side, now you have competition, which is a good thing. That's the American. That's what America's all about, competition. But the thing is too, I just remember just going to the donut shop. I take my dry cleaners over there to the same people, same owners over the years. So I've seen the area, and it's a good area. It's a good project. So I'm going to support it because it's going to revitalize a dead area. It's going to generate more good, high quality brand to our community, especially Alexandria and Paris, if you guys know over there. So anyway, I'm going to support it.
Good project, needs to be there. Still do have the concern with the traffic, especially, I didn't even think about truck traffic. I see no reason why it should not go in, but what I would like to propose, since there is a unknown at this point, is that maybe we can go ahead and get this voted in with a revision to the permit, that maybe it comes back to us in a year just to take a look at the traffic to make sure that that's all good, or if there's anything that needs to be done at that time. And then let them get going with it. But other than that, I think it's a real good project. I just have a little concern with the traffic and the backup. So if we could add that to the permit, that would be something that I would definitely 100% get behind. Thank you.
I live a little ways from the one pretty close to the one that's on Hemlock. And I had to take my granddaughter to school one day, and she wanted to stop there and get a couple of, it really wasn't coffee, it was more like a shake, some sort of a milkshake. And I was concerned. I said, Julie, we're going to be late. She says, no, Grandma, you'll see, they're really quick. I go, okay, here we go, down Hemlock. I went in, and they were so efficient and quick. I couldn't even believe it. They have everything going. They know exactly what they're doing. We were in and out of there, and then she surprised me because she just pulls out her card and just swipes it, and there you go. We were in and out of there within 5 minutes. I'm not kidding you. I know that In-N-Out is there, but they don't open till 11. So you really don't get the morning traffic that much. I know initially when a place opens, you always have a lot of traffic. That's just the way it goes. When Stater Brothers came up there on Pigeon Pass, you had the traffic for 3 days up there. People were just going around. They were just so elated that Stater Brothers came in. But I think, like Daryl said, this is something that is a nice quality building. It will enhance that area because there isn't a lot of real good stuff there. I know that my granddaughter lives up that way, and she always tells me, welcome to my side of town, Grandma. Lock your doors. That's exactly what she tells me. I said, honey, I've been to shadier places. This looks pretty good. But I'm going to vote for it because I just like something with quality that's going to be coming in. And I hope we get a lot more places like this. Like I said, I hope there's a lot of people that have these other eateries that will try to put more spots around town because we are a large city and we're 220,000 people. So when you have one, and you're going to have a lot of cars backing up if it's a real popular place. So I just think it's a good project. And I don't really see a lot of problems once they get up and running. It's because you're very efficient and very good at what you do.
Okay, I don't want to stand the risk of sounding facetious. I guess the solution would be to build unpopular businesses. Then we wouldn't have to worry about traffic. I know it's difficult to predict how many, there are traffic studies, there's, ways to have a educated guess of how many, traffic or cars will be coming into the place. But I'd like to see popular places come in to our city and generate that revenue. Gosh, I mean, the only other thing you can think about is a place like an In-N-Out or Starbucks, or is putting it out in the field by itself somewhere, and then you wouldn't have to worry about the traffic at all. That's probably not going to happen. Yeah, it's its own field by itself, its own parking, its own in and out regress, and the way to get in and get out, and that's probably not going to happen, because those areas are probably zoned for just strictly commercial warehouses, stuff like that. But the way, if this does have overflow, it's going into the parking lot. The way it looks here, it looks like it's going in the parking lot, and it does not look like it's going. I could see if you were going into the driveway from Alessandro. That I could see that in Alessandro backing up there. You know, because you never know what's going to go. I mean, you look at 25, 030, 050. What was that store in 70 in the corner? Was that Clark's way back in the day? Yeah, I used to. Yeah, right here, and in the back they used to have the hobby store. We'd go in and get our model trains and stuff like that, and it was pretty popular at the time. And then one, check cashing, and there was something else there, like a furniture store. Craig and Auto, yeah, right. And all of those did not survive. Let's put something in there that's going to survive. That's going to be able to fend for itself and get some popularity. And I do believe that once that third location, the second location is going to give some relief to the first location. The third will give some relief to the other two, and at some point it'll be a moot point. I think it's a good thing, especially for that pad. It's especially. So yeah, I tend to I want to approve it myself. Motion, second.
I'll move that we adopt resolution 2025-10, and then also determine that the conditional use permit PEN 24-0013 is categorically exempt from provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and also the CEQA guidelines class 32. Also exempt in infill development in accordance with CEQA guidelines section number 15332, and then also approve the conditional use permit PEN 24-0013, subject to the attached conditions of approval included in Exhibit A of the resolution number 2025-10 as shown on the approval plan.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second.
Commissioner Terrell, can you enter your vote?
That guy down there in the end.
Didn't vote.
Yeah. All right, the motion does carry. Do we have a staff wrap-up?
Thank you, Chair. The action of the Planning Commission this evening is an appealable action. Anyone wishing to appeal the decision of the commission must do so by filing an appeal application with the city and paying the applicable filing fee within 10 calendar days of the action. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item is other commissioner business, and we do not have any items at this time. Do we have any staff comments?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of quick comments. The city clerk's office has a new application for anyone interested in serving on a city commission. The application can be found online in the city clerk's web pages. And if any of you whose term have expired but are interested, and you've already submitted an application, there's no need to submit a new application. And then did want to mention and introduce, we do have a new administrative assistant in the planning division. Brandy Barron is here this evening training with Stacy. And that's all I have. Thank you, Chair.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda is planning commissioner comments. On items under the preview or the planning commission, that means stick to planning commission business. Do we have any commissioner comments? Oh, got a couple. Okay.
I was just wondering if they could, on the agenda, if they could update me to commissioner and not alternate commissioner on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Absolutely, apologies for that.
Any other?
Yes. I'd like to find out any updates about the Lewis project, the downtown, and what's going on with the project with the in and out. And the area on Nason, the project we approved, when was that? We approved, but what's the status on that project? I don't think it in and out, but I know there was,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
what's going on with,
Mason and Fur.
yeah, Nason and Fur. Any updates?
So I'll jump in real quick on just those two inquiries, just to, clarify. The project on Nason, we're still in conversation with the developer on, they are working with the tenants on that site. And my understanding is that they're still working to finalize lease agreements prior to starting construction. But those conversations are ongoing with regard to the Moreno Valley, the Town Center project by Lewis. Lewis is, from what I understand, working diligently on marketing the property, as well as working on potential designs to be coming in for city staff review and approval very soon.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Any other commissioner? What did I do with my sheet there? Any other comments there? I was thinking, since we're updating names in the, under Alvin Dejanay chairperson, add all around great guy to the title there. That might help. All right, so the planning commission meeting is adjourned at 7:32 p.m. for our next regular meeting, July 24th, 2025 at 6 p.m.